it. So today's session, we're going to be talking about the 7 habits of highly effective investors. And before we get going, let's do a quick introduction. So my name is Tom Schneider. I have over 10 years of investing experience with a focus on technology and operations. I was previously the Senior Director of Product for a publicly traded REIT called Waypoint Homes, overseeing the technology to manage acquisitions, operations, management, leasing, dispositions, all of that good stuff. And I'm an active California real estate investor as well as a broker.
Hey everyone, I'm Emil Shore. I work on the marketing team here at Roofstock. So story about me, I actually bought my first property through Roofstock back in 2017. I've been a big fan of the company ever since, and lucky enough to get to spread the word now, joined back in March. And I own a couple different single family rentals across the country, spread out on markets like Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Memphis, and St. Louis.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael Albaum. I have 10 plus years as a real estate investor. I'm really specializing in out-of-state value-add multifamily deals. I got my start with, as a lot of people did, with single-family homes in California where I live, and then kind of branched out to do some other things. Along while I was doing real estate investing, I also worked as 8 years as a professional fire protection engineer in the commercial property insurance industry. So kind of got a sneak peek into how a lot of insurance works, especially on a pretty large scale. And now I'm working as one of the head coaches with Roofstock Academy.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right into it, talking about the 7 habits. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Roofstock Academy in our launch recently. And then we're going to go through questions and answers of the habits or about Roofstock Academy.
All right, so I'm going to kick it off, bias for action. And one caveat I want to put out. So if you guys have read the 7 habits of highly effective people, which is where we got the title of this webinar, one of the big things that Stephen R. Covey talks about is focusing on things you can control. So a lot of the habits we're going to be talking about here, it's going to be focusing on things within our control. We're not going to be talking about things like timing markets or interest rates or the economy. It's all things that you can control yourself as an investor. So the first one I have is a bias for action. And for me, the first one is getting started. Becoming a real estate investor, it often requires taking a leap of faith at some point, right? You're never going to know everything. No matter what stage of the journey you're at, whether you look at myself, Tom, or Michael, we're all at different stages, but we're all constantly learning. And so a bias for action is the first one. At some point, you have to jump in, and you're going to learn along the way. Second point here is focusing on solutions. So things aren't going to always go smoothly. There's always going to be bumps in the road. And so one of the things you have to constantly remind yourself is focusing on solutions and not fixating on problems or overthinking them, right? You always have to be saying, okay, how do we move forward? How do we best solve this challenge in front of us? And the last thing in terms of bias for action is keep moving forward. So it doesn't always have to be buying properties, but how are you growing as an investor? How are you learning more about your market? Is there equity to tap into to grow your portfolio? Are you evaluating deals in the markets that you're looking at to see what's going on in those markets? Of course, making offers, right? You have to actually be in the game making offers, part of real estate investing, of course. And then even things like networking with like-minded people, right? So constant action and moving forward in progress is a big habit.
So one of the habits I want to talk about is really front-loading your work. So I would argue that really front-loading your work starts with really getting the following team members on your team and really starting to build your team. So first and foremost would be an agent. One of the beautiful things about Roofstock is that they've already done that for you. They can provide that for you. So if you're investing outside the platform, you got to go find an agent. You got to get a lender. And again, Roofstock has some recommended lenders that they work with. So get your lender in place. You want to make sure that you're actually finding a property manager prior to finding a property. I'd say that if you determine a market that you're interested in investing in, reach out to some property managers if you're investing off the platform. But again, Roofstock here can provide that, some recommended property managers as well. You have to have an insurance agent. And again, Roofstock can provide this, which makes it so easy to invest with them. You also want to reach out to some contractors if there's any work that needs to be done on the property. The nice thing about contractors is that most property managers will have a couple in their back pocket that you can leverage, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Then you'll definitely want to get with an investor-friendly CPA and a real estate attorney. So having all these people in place kind of ahead of time makes the actual buying process and operations process so much easier. So I always recommend, and I always spend a ton of time finding and sourcing these people such that once the deal is ready to go, it's almost plug and play. I make 2 phone calls and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Next thing you can do is run your numbers. You want to be extremely well versed in what makes a good deal for you and what doesn't make a good deal for you. And I put an emphasis on the you because what makes a good deal for Emil or Tom or myself might be very different things. We might have very different investing criteria. So you want to determine exactly what you can pay for a property based on the information you have at your disposal. And obviously, once we make an offer on a property, get something under contract, we'll go into due diligence. We'll be able to get inside the books of the seller and find out more about the property, have an inspection done. But on the front end, we have to make some educated guesses and assumptions. Definitely run your numbers and make sure that you can know what you can pay for the property prior to making an offer. And the last thing I would say is you really need to set expectations. And this is critical on multiple levels. I mean, you should really be setting expectations with every member of your team, and you should cover what you can expect from them and what they can expect from you. One of the biggest ways I've seen relationships kind of come into question and really sour is by misaligned expectations or unset expectations, which lead to unmet expectations. So these are really 3 ways that I'd say, front load your work and you will be so much happier in your closing process and throughout your ownership process.
Excellent. And, kind of related to front loading your work is the next habit that I have is vet vendors vigorously. So about 4 years ago, I ran into one of the most frustrating experiences with real estate investing. I selected a lender. They sounded great. Their rates looked really good, but I didn't vet them as thoroughly as I should have. And what I mean by that is the closing fees. So I didn't ask them what the closing fees were. So I do all this work up front and identify a great property that I like. I still own it today. And I come to closing time and I'm looking at my closing statement, just doing my checking the boxes, looking through the various costs. And I look at this origination fee and it's like $1,200 per property. And that's like real money, and that's a lot of money. And that's totally on me for not getting that information up front, like on closing day. And it still makes me mad today thinking about it, not properly vetting them and asking them all the right questions. So on that habit, the first aspect is control the controllables. And there's a lot of stuff in real estate investing that you control, and there's a lot that you don't control. And what you do, man, you really got to take advantage of that. So vendor selection is 100% one of those. It sounds like there might be a car race going outside. Sorry for the noise. So a way that you can vet vendors vigorously is by having a standardized process, depending on what type of vendor it is, a vendor that you're vetting. So with the property manager, I have a checklist that I go through asking them backgrounds about their company, how many properties they have under management, what's their performance metrics like occupancy, do they have standard operating procedures? So across all the different types of vendors, there are these key questions that you need to ask just to make sure you don't kind of get caught on the back end. And doing that up front, just like the last habit, is really key and can save you a lot of heartache down the line. So there's some benefits. Obviously, straightforward benefits is saving money, right? In my example, I could have saved a ton of money on my closing. But there are a lot of long-term benefits by going through this really more onerous process of vetting them up front. So with a property manager, I like to leverage them in ways that you wouldn't naturally do. Like in my acquisition strategy, I'll take a property and address and ask them about what kind of property this is. And this is all done upfront in that upfront vetting vendors vigorously, building that trust and kind of establishing, is this a partner that I can lean on beyond what is the kind of day-to-day. Same thing with the lender. So, as soon as you get beyond your, within lending, you get 10 loans that you can use. Perhaps they can help you be creative and figure out ways to, extend that by getting loans through your partner. So there's just a lot of other creative ways in going really deep on your vendor vetting up front and benefits that you can have.
All right, next habit we're going to talk about is treating your investing like a business. And for me, there's 3 inputs here. It's the first one in green, reinvesting profits. That's really growing the business. The second one, create more value for customers. That is growing your revenue per customer. And the third one, like any business, decreasing costs is going to increase your profits. So let me go through each one. So reinvesting profits, right, to grow my portfolio. What I always do is I have a separate bank account that all of my, everything related to my real estate goes into. So all my mortgages are paid out of that, and all my rent checks go in there. And so I have this separate account, and I know that I'm going to reuse this cash flow once it reaches above a certain level to keep acquiring more properties. I'm saving in addition to using cash flow to buy more properties. The other thing you can do is if you've had a property for some time and the market's appreciated, or you've done some additions to the property to increase the equity in it, to increase the value, you can pull out that equity, cash out, refinance, and use it to grow your portfolio. So that's the first one, is growing your portfolio, increasing the number of customers paying you, just like a business would. Second one is creating more value for customers. So how do I get more revenue per customer? So making improvements that your customers, i.e. tenants, appreciate and are willing to pay a higher rent for. So let's say one of my tenants has moved out and I have some old fixtures. I can install some new granite countertops, some new counters, improve the appliances, the bathroom, all these different things that I know tenants care about and that they're willing to pay more for. And the other thing to keep in mind here is your future buyer is also your customer. So at some point, you may be in a position where you want to sell one of your properties. So increasing the value of your property is going to help you down the road as well. And then the last one is decreasing costs. And the way I like to look at this is finding ways to reduce ongoing expenses. So for example, let's say you have a property that has carpet throughout. So every time you have a new tenant come in, you're going to have to either vacuum or do some type of cleaning or maybe even change out the carpet. So what you can do is in high traffic areas like maybe the kitchen, the bathroom, whatever it is, you can replace carpet with LVT flooring. It's much more durable, much more tenant proof. It's going to last you a lot longer, so you don't have to keep paying for the maintenance of that carpet. You can also, another example is using paint that is more scuff resistant, right? That can almost be washed instead of having to be repainted every time. So thinking about it like a business is another habit that sets successful investors apart.
So this is one of my favorite, I think, success habits, and that's don't take no for an answer. There's a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and he's a former FBI hostage negotiator. And he talks all about this concept of no's and yeses and negotiating with people. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about why people say no. I think there's kind of three big reasons. And the first one is that they're uncertain, and no is a very safe answer, right? If someone asks you something and you don't know the answer, you're probably going to say no. They don't want to do what you're asking, whether it's because it's difficult or they're lazy or whatever reason is they might just not want to do it. So they're going to say no, or they're afraid of being wrong. Again, and that kind of ties into being uncertain. And so they're likely to say no. So, how do we get to yes, or how do we get beyond the no? I found that my best ally is the word in question, why. If I ever ask a question and I get a resounding no, I'll say, okay, but why? So often I'll ask someone for something and get this no, and I realize that they really haven't considered the question. It's typically a gut response, no, and that's pretty easy to tell from someone. So when I ask the question why, I often see this kind of startled look in people's faces, and it's not because I ask in a rude or threatening way, but because many people simply take their answers at face value and then go walk away. They're used to being, walking away after being given a no. So the question why forces someone to think and really defend their answer. So oftentimes, if you ask the question why or you get a no, you're just not speaking to the right person. So I remember a couple of years ago, I was looking to get a deal done, looking to get a HELOC established, and they said, no, we can't do it. And so I said, well, why? And they said, well, actually, kind of gave me these roundabout answers. And I said, well, that's not really good enough. So let's go into finding out why. Is there a manager available? And when I actually got speaking to the manager, it turns out that they could provide me with a HELOC. So I just wasn't speaking to the right person. And I found it was because either they didn't know, that initial person I was speaking to either didn't know or didn't want to do what I was asking. So why can be your best friend. And it may be that the overall answer truly is no. And that's fine. We don't want to push things. We don't want to try to force things. Like Emil said, so much of these habits are things that are in your control. And asking the simple question why is absolutely within your control. So if you get beyond the first, second, third person to the final answer, the final destination, if you will, and the answer is still no, that's fine. At least you did your due diligence and you tried. But I never accept no at face value. If always followed up with a why would be some of my greatest advice.
And I love that book as well. One of my favorite things that I took away from it is Instead of asking people, what's an example like, can we do this? You just reframe the question to how can we do that?
How can we do this? Yeah.
And the other person has to start thinking not in terms of no or yes, but again in terms of how do we find a solution. And so
Right.
that's one of my other favorite things from that book.
How is that key word there that causes a different reaction in the brain to you start thinking critically, as opposed to just like you said, it's black and white, yes or no.
Yep.
Framing, love it. All right, the next habit I'm going to talk about is setting long and short-term goals in pencil. So long-term goals, if you don't have a clear destination of where you're trying to go, you're going to end up who knows where, right? So I think it's really important to regularly sit down and ask yourself, what does 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years look like? For myself, I want to get to a point where I have a big enough of a cash flow of passive income that I can work if I want to. I enjoy working. Working is fun, but the one thing that makes working even more fun is if you don't have to. So that's my goal, is just getting a big, massive passive cash flow. And that's going to affect the way that I want to plan my short-term goals. So in talking about short-term goals, I love the SMART acronym, and some of you may have heard of it before. This is planning out things that are specific. So I'm going to go through these in some personal examples. So right now I want to tap into a self-directed IRA. I haven't done that before, but it sounds like a pretty incredible opportunity to take a chunk of money that you have that's within the equities that are kind of risky, I see, and parking them into real estate. So specific is buying my first property with a self-directed IRA. Measurable, can you measure it? And for that, sure you can. It's going 0 from 1 of that type of an asset. Attainable, sure. A lot of people have done it before. It's just I have some goals that I'm going to put into place into answering a bunch of questions I need to know to be able to execute on that strategy. And realistic, sure, very realistic. Just as I said, a lot of people have done it, and time bound. So this is the final piece of it. So I want to do it, get this done in the next 2 to 3 months is my plan. So building that long-term goal, right, and then just plugging it into chunking little short-term goals along the way to do it. And the third aspect of this, I think, is really important, is doing it all with a pencil. Just because life situations change, that's the only thing consistent with life. So, as life changes, it's a good exercise and good hygiene to go back and look at those long-term goals that you should document, right? Have it in writing, and continue to update them as life events change. For myself, my wife is super pregnant right now, and I actually have my cell phone just in the corner right here, just in case I need to run. But this kind of some of my immediate cash that I have available, I want to have those saved for family stuff. So this is why I'm using this change in my short-term goal to use a self-directed IRA of money that's kind of locked up. So that's an example of building a long-term goal, applying short-term goals that are smart, that lead up to that long-term goal, and being okay if things changes. Because honestly, that's just life, and things are going to change. And being biased towards action to making them happening.
There you go. There's going to be a lot of overlap in a lot of these habits that you guys are hearing about. And the last one, this is habit number 7, never stop sharpening the saw. So again, anyone who's actually read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we had to pay homage to this and swipe directly from it. So never stop sharpening the saw. So anyone who's not familiar with that, that means is your most important asset is your mind. So constantly improving your knowledge and education on a certain subject, right? So your mind is your most important asset. Invest accordingly. One of the biggest things you can improve is always yourself. So make sure you're setting aside time for that. And this is an important one. This kind of hits home for me. Moving target. Only thing constant is change. You need to prioritize staying abreast. Me personally, I bought a couple properties and I was like, oh, I've got the hang of this. I feel like I know exactly what I'm doing. I'll just keep repeating. And now it's funny. We started Roofstock Academy a couple months ago, and I've been going through a lot of the lectures and speaking with the other coaches. And it almost put me back to square one and realizing that, man, I really know nothing. And this is a constant journey. You're going to keep growing and learning and getting better. And you have to want to get to that next level. So it's always a moving target. And another important point, a small move can have big impact. So it's the compound effect, right? A lot of small actions and small improvements, they add up over time, right? You're not going to go from 0 to 100 in a week. This stuff takes time, but as long as you're making continuous progress in little chunks, you're gonna look back in 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, and be like, wow, I've made a huge stride in where I was before. So
I love the confluence, how all these kind of play into each other.
yeah, exactly. All right, so quick summary of our 7 habits. You have them all summarized here. First one was bias for action. Second one, front load your work. Third, vet vendors vigorously, which I would love to try to say 10 times fast. Treat it like a business. Number 4. Number 5, don't take no for an answer. 6, set long and short-term goals. And number 7, never stop sharpening the saw. And so I'm going to hand it over to Tom in just a second, and we're going to be talking about Roofstock Academy. So we've gone through these 7 habits, and I'm sure a lot of you will probably want to dive deeper and really like get deep on a lot of the subjects that we talk about in real estate investing. And that goes to this habit number 7 of never stop sharpening the saw. So that's kind of why we created Roofstock Academy. I'm going to turn over to Tom now.
Awesome. So everyone on this webinar understands the benefits of real estate investing. There's passive income, multiple income streams, loan pay down, as well as the tax benefits. But in reality, there are a lot of challenges of real estate investing that are real. Preventable mistakes, taking unnecessary risks, building a team, and navigating through the unknown. For these reasons, Roofstock created Roofstock Academy. We created this roughly 4 months ago. So nobody should be alone in their real estate investing journey. We have over 100 investors, a lot of great testimonials that we've got from our members that we have right now. Andrea has a great one of going from 0 to 1 in a month. And Eugene, who's a little bit more of an advanced investor, he talked about, there's a lot of material on the internet as it relates to books and articles, but having a resource that you can trust and go back to, then has it all organized in a cohesive way. So within Roofstock Academy, there's 4 main benefits, right, overviews of it. So first is the on-demand lectures, and there's over 200 lectures that we have, varying levels of difficulty from just getting started to more advanced. They're online, on-demand, and mobile-friendly, and in paying for the paid program, you get lifetime access. And we've had a lot of people take a lot of lectures, and we survey pretty aggressively on them, just simple questions. Did this meet your expectations? And overwhelmingly, it's been yes. So on average, we're a 4.6 out of 4. 4.64 out of 5, with 5 being exceeding expectation. And we have a variety of different courses from getting started to the financing aspects to property analyzing, I'm coming up with fancy words, and asset management, property management, 1031 exchanges, all this kind of good stuff. And soon to be coming self-directed IRAs. I'm making myself a guinea pig and meeting with some experts, and we're going to be making a lot of really great content around that. The other aspect that's really key is the coaching. So within the coaching, there's 2 different styles. We have group coaching that is private for the members, where Michael will lead a topic, be it on a lot of it is what the members want to hear about. So we've had topics on lending, on insurance, on some stuff on market selection, and then there's also individual coaching. And with these different coaching sessions, we manage them through Zoom, so you get a personalized recorded version of it. If it's a personal coaching session, it's yours for you to reference in the future. We've done some on-site coaching sessions too, if we're happen to be in the same area. And we've done a lot of coaching sessions, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. A tribute to all the good coaches that we have here at Roofstock Academy, a 4.9 out of 5, with 5 being exceeding expectations. The other aspect is the SFR playbook, and this really speaks to my most furious moment of real estate investing, is seeing that unnecessary fee that I paid to my stupid lender that I selected on a closing cost. So within the playbook, we have a variety of vendor interview cheat sheets that just go over a pretty large list of questions to ask before selecting a vendor, be it a lender, property manager, CPA, attorney, insurance, and then we have different financial models as it relates to where you are in your planning of building wealth through real estate. So we have this 10-year acquisition cash flow. You can see a little screenshot of it here. It's basically a model that allows you to adjust the number of acquisitions you make each year, as well as some of the assumptions as it relates to cost per home, and to see how long will it take you to get to that ideal cash flow that you're looking to make. It just makes it way more concrete, and once it's concrete, it's much easier to take actions to get there, right? We also have a pretty in-depth property analysis tool. So As I was mentioning, I used to work for one of the publicly traded REITs that worked in single family rental, and we take a lot of their best practices. There's aspects around setting a maximum bid using some powerful tools in Excel, such as GoalSeek, to come up with what is the maximum amount you would want to pay based on the return levels that you're looking to get. We also apply topics such as risk-adjusted return. This is a really key topic that we talk about, in that if you're buying a house in a nicer area, you should be okay with less returns. It's just there's a lot of different factors that we can talk about why that's true. And if you're buying a property in a less nice area, maybe the school scores are lower or whatnot, you should want a lot more higher returns than you would if it is in a really nice area. Pretty straightforward, but being able, within your property analysis, to set different benchmarks of what kind of returns you're looking at, because that's what all the institutions are doing, and you as investors should be doing as well. We also have tools as it relates to fund flow. So this is a tool in managing your income that's going in and going out, and actually forecasting, in the next month, 6 months, 8 months, when your acquisitions are happening. Using these fund flow tools will basically make it really easy to forecast when you're ready to make your next acquisition and be data driven about it. And the final piece of the SFR playbook is asset management. So these are tools of, great, you own a property, now what? So it's a way to organize all your properties in your portfolio, and as well as manage your property manager, and think about activities such as refinancing, and putting triggers on timing on looking at when your lease is coming up. So tools around asset management. So that's the SFR playbook. The fourth piece, and here's a look at the acquisition playbook. So this individual property, it's really cool. It makes it a simple yes/no decision. It's not the kind of ambiguous of, oh, I think this looks good. It's no, it's yes/no decisions, and that's a good way to be data driven. The fourth piece of Roofstock Academy is this private forum, and I think arguably it's one of the most valuable pieces. So it's a private Slack channel that we have for our members, where we can have real-time discussions about deals, about vendors, about lenders, about market news and questions. It's pretty much real-time in this channel, where you can ask questions. I know Michael, myself, Emil, a lot of the other coaches are in here every day answering stuff within the forums directly to people as well on subjects. So it's really a kind of a really powerful tool that I don't think is common out there for a lot of these investing programs that we have.
Yeah, we just, from one of the channels, someone's organizing a local meetup in Southern California. So that was like another cool byproduct of the forum, is people can talk about where they're from, and if they want to arrange a local meetup to talk real estate investing.
I love that. And there's one in New York.
There's one in New York, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And I think over time that's going to be more what's the word? Yeah, codified, the meetup. I can't get the exact word, but anyways, these are the main 4 aspects of the Academy. We have 3 different programs that are offering right now. There's the Mastery, the Access, as well as the Essentials. The Essentials is a free program that gives you a taste of what the lectures are like. When you layer on the Access program, it's a host of additional benefits. So you get, instead of just access just to the essential lectures, you get the full lecture library. So that's the 40+ hours where we're constantly adding new lectures. You get access for life to what exists now, as well as what exists in the future, as well as a one-on-one coaching session, and $250 of Roofstock credits that go towards a purchase. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide in a minute. And then we have the Mastery program, which is the creme de la creme, the most complete program that we offer. You get a full year of coaching. You get access to the full library of lectures for lifetime. You get access to the group coaching, as well as the SFR playbook that we went through a couple of slides ago. And you get access into the Slack channel. And you get a full $1,750 of Roofstock credits. So I'll talk about that right now, kind of how that works. So with the marketplace credits, with the Mastery program, you basically get your money back if you plan to purchase on Roofstock. So you get $1,000 at closing on your very first purchase after enrolling, and then $250 on your next 3. So like I said, if you plan to purchase, it's really a no-brainer in that you get all this benefit basically for free. With the Access program, you get a one-time $250 towards that transaction. The second additional benefit that is pretty awesome with the access as well as the mastery is lifetime satisfaction guarantee. So take the lectures, do the coaching, and if you didn't think you got enough value, no questions asked, full guarantee. If you do take advantage of the marketplace credits, the refund doesn't count because you're basically getting that money back anyways at your close. But if you decide not to purchase and you just didn't get enough value, no questions asked. And the third piece that I want to talk about is limited availability. So if you're interested in the mastery program specifically, I would act now to maintain the standards. We limit the ratio of members to coaches. And the last round we launched, we sold out. And so I expect this is probably going to happen again. So I'd recommend to act soon within that.
One other thing to add, the mastery program is designed to help you with investing, whether or not you purchase through Roofstock.
Great point.
Those credits are really like, if you're going to buy through Roofstock, it's really just to make this a no-brainer and basically free for you if you're planning on buying several properties through Roofstock.
Definitely, definitely. And, you know, a big thing about Roofstock that I'm really glad you brought that up is it's not Roofstock Academy is not a Roofstock infomercial. We think Roofstock is an excellent place to buy and sell real estate, but the content that we have is really agnostic. And we've celebrated a lot of members who have closed transactions outside of Roofstock because that's really the ultimate goal is democratizing real estate investment and you know, getting it done. Emil, I'll put you on the spot. Do you have any, you know, final thoughts or just, you know, comments on Roofstock Academy?
I think I mentioned it in one of the slides earlier, but you know, as an employee of Roofstock, I get access to Roofstock Academy, and the material in there has been so amazing. Even I've done a couple properties under my belt. You never stop learning, right? You always have to be thinking, how do I get better at this, right? You're always going to be. You should get better at your 5th or 10th deal than on your first deal, right? And it's through this education that we're presenting. And the coaching, you know, I've done some coaching with like Michael and you, and I've learned so much from those. It's a no-brainer for me.
Michael, do you want to throw a 10 cents in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've chatted about this several times, but I wish this was around when I first started investing. I had to, you know, trip over myself so many times before I learned this stuff. And now that we're kind of packaging this all together, I'm so jealous and envious. And just like you said, I think it's totally applicable for, we talk about investing basics and values, and that's really what the coaching is. It's how to invest in real estate, whether it's on Roofstock or another platform or somewhere else. It's applicable to anyone who's looking to invest in real estate from 0 to 1 or from 50 to 100. Wherever you are in your investing career, I think that there's something here for you.
Awesome. Well, great. We're going to go ahead and jump to open questions. It could be about the habits. It could be about real estate investing. And I guess if you're interested, please go to roofstockacademy.com. Schedule a call, send us an email. But now we're going to open it up for questions that you guys have. So go ahead and just enter them in, and we'll go ahead and answer them. So let me go ahead and pop this down. Oh, the book title.
Oh, yeah, that one that Michael recommended is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, right? Is that right, Michael?
Yeah, that's it.
While we're on book recommendations, I joke, I can't read, but I can listen really well, so I listen to Audible all the time. The 7 Habits by Stephen Covey is is a super great book, regardless of what industry you're in.
Yeah.
Another one that I think is really relevant to real estate investing is How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie.
Classic. Real estate is a relationship business. That's a good book. I like a lot of the bigger pocket books are great. I've read through those days. Yep. The BRR stuff is great. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Keller is a really great one.
Yeah, I'm reading Long Distance Real Estate Investing by Robert Greene right now.
All right, I got a good question. So I just bought 2 properties on Roofstock that is yet to close. Can I subscribe to the master course and get credits towards the property and yet to close? Yes, you can. Just go ahead and go to Roofstock Academy, sign up, and then notify your transaction coordinator, and they'll go ahead and take care of it. So if you're actively in a transaction right now, you can take advantage of the credits that you get. And if there is an issue on timing, we'll make sure that you get the discount, on the properties that you bought. So yes, if you're in a transaction, you can definitely take advantage of it.
Go ahead and if you have any questions, throw them in the question box. Keep going through them.
Someone asked about local coaching sessions. So we're here in Oakland, California, Northern California. We also have an office in Dallas, Texas. And Michael is living the real estate investor dream and is traveling to Costa Rica. So just ping us in Slack after enrolling and say, hey, I'm interested in the local. With some of the folks, we've had some meetups here, and I love to show people the Roofstock office. That's something we would totally be happy to accommodate, either if you're traveling to the Bay Area or through Dallas in Texas to doing a session there.
That'd be fun in the Slack group to post what my real estate investing is allowing me to do.
Yeah. Yep.
On vacation from my.
That'd be a great one.
Wow. Yeah.
What else do we have?
All right.
Can I access the lectures at any time? Or can I go through them one by? Do I have to go through them in order, or one? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's totally on demand, pick your own journey. We organize the lectures by there are courses, right, and that are topical that are a topic, right? So analyzing a property, and then within that topic, you can pick and choose whichever ones you want. So be it talking about valuations and different methods of valuating a property, be it the sales comparable or the income approach, or looking at analyzing an inspection, right? So it's totally pick and choose your own journey. And like I said, we're adding new lectures really regularly. So it's constantly adding in lectures and growing. And what's been really awesome is feedback from members that we have of saying, hey, Tom, I want to learn more in depth on 1031. Like maybe we have a lecture that was kind of the overview of 1031. Can you get into the specifics of what the boot is and what are some other components of a 1031? That will lead us to create more lectures on a specific topic. And the way a lot of our lectures work is we bring in an expert on a specific topic and have a setup of a slide where we go through and have a conversation about personal examples, what works, what doesn't work. So we're adding new lectures all the time, and it's like I said, it's very much pick your own journey.
You can launch all those courses from your phone too, right? It's all mobile friendly.
Yes, all mobile friendly. That's right.
Veronica asked, do you have programs to talk about structure, whether to buy personally under an LLC, pros and cons? Yeah, I think we do, right, Tom? And I think that, this is something that I cover oftentimes with students in our coaching, because it's tough. It's a very good question, and it's tough because there's not a one size fits all answer. So it's going to be very specific to your situation, which I think is really one of the most beautiful things about the coaching is we go in depth about what your needs are, what your goals are, what your picture looks like, which could be very different than somebody else's. So the advice that I would be giving, or any of the other coaches would be giving to you, is going to be very Veronica specific, so to speak.
How about from Pete Potter?
Pete Potter. Would you recommend paying off mortgages or continuing to purchase additional homes with your profits? So personally, I think the cost of debt is so cheap right now that I like to employ leverage in that when I think about returns, a metric I like is cash on cash. So my net off, I'll have my income divided by my total amount of money that I put in. If I'm paying for it in all cash, that bottom, the denominator of that is going to be really big because it's going to be the full price of the house. If I'm using leverage and using, say, 20%, it's going to be a lot smaller. So that return metric is going to be significantly higher. That's a way that I think about return. And since leverage is so cheap, I'm a little bit more aggressive about using leverage. But what's fun about this is some coaches are different, right? So there isn't always a right answer. I think it's always personal specific on what your risk threshold is. And that's why it's so helpful having like a coaching session to talk about that and to really vet out like what is your strategy with that.
Yeah, and it's also, I think one other point to add there is if you're looking for cash flow now, like maybe you're looking to retire or whatever, you want cash flow now.
Yeah.
Maybe you pay off the mortgage, so you have higher cash flow now. Versus if you're 20 years away from retiring or whatever, you really just want to grow the portfolio for cash flow later. Might be a better idea to use more leverage and continue to buy.
Yeah. So someone asked, how many coaching sessions are included with the mastery? You get so you get unlimited in the Slack channel, where honestly is you can get kind of real time back and forth. With the one-on-one coaching sessions, we have 10 of them, but you have unlimited of the group coaching. So there's really 3 different ways that you can get at picking the brain of the coaches. Is the Slack channel, which is like lifetime in there, the one-on-one coaches, which we keep them to 10 of them, and then the group coaches, which is just ongoing. Somebody asked, Sean asked, how much is the Academy? So there are 3 different, there are 2 paid versions. There's the Mastery, which is $17.50. However, you basically get all that money back if you buy on roofstock.com. You get as for credits. And the Access program is $6.50. And for your first transaction with the Access program, you get $2.50 back.
Jenny asked you, do you have any general tips for people just starting out, i.e. still in debt, no money saved? I would say, education is key. And in this case, education is free. And I'm making rhymes, I didn't even mean to. Just getting educated and knowing where you want to go and what's possible is so critical. And then obviously, it does take money to invest in real estate. I think anyone who tells you otherwise, it might be a little misleading. Of course, there are ways to do it with no and low money down. A lot of the folks in Bigger Pockets talk about that. So get educated about those ways. But I would say, you would want to start putting together a budget and educating yourself such so that you can start saving money, get out of debt, and then look to invest in real estate. And kind of like Tom was saying before, depending on what your debt looks like, how it's structured, and where it is, it's consumer debt or car debt, it might make sense for you to invest in real estate prior to getting out of debt if the returns are potentially bigger. So again, the education is the biggest piece of the puzzle here.
I'm going to grab a couple of quick questions that we have. Heather asked, do we have content regarding Section 8 rentals? Yes, we have content regarding Section 8 and public housing and that kind of stuff, as well as vacation rentals and some other strategies as it pertains to that. The coaches, who are the coaches? So I'm a coach, Michael does the coaches, and what of our experience? So we're very much eating the dog food and are both professionally as well as personally have a bunch of experience in doing it. So that's a group of the coaches. We have some of our credentials on the initial slide where we've been doing it for 10 years and do it professionally as well as personally. How does it work with a personal coach? So what happens is the first thing you do is you complete an orientation survey, basically to save the coach time of getting some background information about what your goals are. Then after you complete that orientation, you have access to the coach's calendar. And I think we have Michael's calendar and my calendar and a couple of other folks, but you have access to basically pick a time that works. And when you select that time, you're going to get a Zoom meeting conference where at that time that you select, you're going to meet with your coach. And a lot of the ways that my coaching sessions have flowed is I'll start with, all right, let's go through some immediate questions that are off the top of your head, and a lot of people prepare them on some immediate questions, and then we start getting into more methodical of the strategy of, okay, where are you right now? Okay, what are you trying to do? Okay, let's work through the single family rental playbook. You're analyzing a property. This is the way that I would think about it. Or, oh, you're thinking about globally on what your strategy is with debt. I talk a lot about debt with people who are just averse to it, and it's a really powerful thing. So a lot of it is kind of pick your own journey, but we have like a baseline structure, with that coaching session. But a lot of it is on the member, on the way that they want to spend their time. But that's typically, I don't know, Michael, do you have any thoughts on the typical flow of a coaching session?
Yeah, very similar to you. I mean, I have a very rough agenda, a very loose agenda of things that I like to cover, of questions that I like to ask to kind of get an understanding of how you think, where your head is at. Because like you said, Tom, this is so different and so personal for everybody. So my goal is really to help facilitate your success. So if you work well in a certain way and think a certain way, well, we can work with that versus if, the way I think might be different. So I'm going to share with you my experiences, my thoughts, my opinions about things that I've seen and done and mistakes that I've learned and seen, and just kind of share that with you and help guide you to where you'd like to go. And like you said, Tom, having a metric is so important. So I talk a lot in my sessions about metrics and what does it mean to be successful in real estate, or to set goals and to set have set smart goals.
What about Robert's question? What time zone?
Time zone of the coaching session. So we're going to be flexible. For a lot of people, there's a day job, right, of while building real estate. So we're going to be flexible with coaching sessions. I'm on the West Coast, and we'll typically, I'm saying this, but like it's flexible, right? Like it's definitely gonna make ourselves available. I've done weekend coaching before, after hours. I know Michael has done group coaching sessions on weekends before. So we're going to be flexible.
And I would say too that there's a handful of coaches that if someone can't answer your question, we'll find someone who can. And that's kind of to a previous question of, the experience of the coach. I think all the coaches are very humble people and would be the first ones to tell you if they didn't know the answer to something, and then are going to look to help you find the right person who can answer those questions. So same thing with scheduling. If someone can't, meet at a certain time or doesn't work, we'll find someone who can.
All right, Walter has a good question. How long is the credit for the masterclass good for? So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say that it's 12 months, but if it's within honestly the next 18 months, you're not going to get. You're going to make it right. So there isn't like necessarily a set date for it. Yeah. So in your mind, I would put 2 years kind of on the back of the napkin. But like I said, like this program is newer, and we're not going to hardball people who are Yeah.
Pete said he's looking forward to signing up for Mastery. Awesome, Pete.
Awesome,
looking
Pete.
forward to seeing you in there.
Yeah, we have some Bay Area folks, so that's awesome. That's great. Excellent. So let's see. Veronica has a question. Do we have anything that compares outline real estate laws by state? So this is another item that we've, probably content that we'll layer in over time, comparing laws by state, because there is a lot of unique states. I think that what I think about most pertinently state to state is how property taxes apply. So there's some states that do not have income tax that apply huge taxes on real estate. So like Texas and Florida are them. Right now, there isn't content that goes super deep into the real estate laws state by state, because it's hard, because it's kind of a moving target. But I think that's something that we can layer in over time. And a lot of the content that we create, on an ongoing basis is from feedback from members.
Yeah, and even, another thing I think about with like real estate law is how friendly is it for a landlord, right? We're not here to try to kick anybody out, or, we don't want to be the mean landlord, but sometimes it comes to those things.
Sure.
It's good to be in a market where you have, some repercussions on your side, right?
Yeah.
In California, someone can sit on a property 6 months before you can do anything, so it's not landlord friendly here. So there, all those kinds of things, a lot of us know just from being in those markets. Other people in the forums can probably answer those as well.
Yeah, we have material that talks about different markets, and we don't go as detailed line by line of different, but a way I like to frame it is investor friendly. Some markets are a little bit more investor friendly, and within the material we have content on the various most common real estate markets, and we're adding those all the time.
Sanjay, will you be sharing the slides? Yes, a recording and a link to the slides will be going out tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Those will definitely be going out.
Delaney is asking, how do you advise investors on taxes across multiple states? Won't that necessitate taxes filed per state? Yeah, absolutely. This is another great question. And this is going to be one that we need to chat with the CPA about, because every person's personal financial situation is different. And if you're filing taxes or owning property in a certain state, yeah, you do need to file taxes in that state. And that's really going to be in a CPA's wheelhouse. So I think there's, previous to the question that Tom was answering, if we don't have the answer or the resources at our fingertips, I think most of us are going to be able to point you in the right direction of who you need to go talk to, who's the actual legal or taxation expert that can give you that advice. Because we're not, and I'll be the first one to tell you, not a legal expert. So if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to point you in the right direction of where you can go get that answer.
Yeah, and some hard advice on that is as an investor, get a CPA, because if you're trying to do it on your own to kind of save some money on filing taxes, there's a lot, and it's a moving target. So paying money to a CPA to do that is going to well worth it, just because they're going to really be able to squeeze all the benefits out of real estate investing, deduction, depreciation, deferral. Like, you're going to want a CPA, and that's good money that you're spending. Yeah. And we have recommendations on CPAs, and that's another kind of aspect of the academy that we're going to build up over time, is really thoroughly vetted of those type of vendors.
Yeah, I think a good CPA will easily make you.
It's well worth it. And just like a quick anecdote about that, I was chatting with my CPA earlier this year, and we had to file an extension just because we had so much stuff going on. But he goes, the tax code is changing, and we as CPAs who are experts in the field are having a hard time understanding. And so we've gone and asked the federal government of how we are supposed to interpret these things. So I think, to your point, Tom, it's money so well spent because it is such a moving target, and most people as individuals aren't qualified well enough to be able to interpret the tax code when CPAs are having issues with it. So I think that's great advice.
Awesome. So as we said, we're going to share the slides as well as a link to the recording. I want to thank everybody for jumping on and sharing your Wednesday afternoon with us. Thankfully, my phone did not ring, so my wife is not in labor right now. So
you made
thanks
it.
again for everybody for showing up, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care, everybody.